사람들이랑도 잘 어울리고 히어로즈 오브 더 스톰의 좋은 점은 싸움이 많이 일어나고 팀원과의 협동심이 중요한 게임이라 사람들과 더 잘 어울릴 수 있는 것 같아요.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Season Brawl here. We have a few more series left for day number 5 to find out exactly how all the groups are going to shape up in a nice little box. And it's going to be great. It's going to be good. To my left-hand side, we have Jayhow, we have Tetcher. No, we don't. We have Trixler, and we have...
I'm Tetcher.
Skimmy, mate.
You got it wrong. Come on, dude.
Nah, yeah. All right, so looking at our next matchup, of course, it's going to be a good one because we're going to get Gen.G going up against Ballistix here between these two teams. And I think this is a fixture that a lot of us have been looking forward to since we really saw the group kind of shape out.
I think this is the match of the group stages, quite honestly, right? These two teams have such an illustrious history between the two. The back and forth. One takes the BlizzCon, the other takes the BlizzCon. One looks in really good form, the other starts to get into really good form. Gen.G have looked unstoppable so far, but there is any team that can really rival them, and we've seen a few. Then this would be the match to watch.
Well, let's take a look at the schedule just before we kind of keep ironing out everything that we want to say, of course. As you can see there, 2-0 to Tempest at the beginning of the day, pretty clean for them. And now we have the Gen.G versus Ballistix going on. A few more games going on down the line there. CE versus Heroes Hearth Esports is a big one because that will determine a little bit of the fluctuation that may happen over in Group B as well. Well, let's go back, of course. Gen.G.
Yeah.
Guys that are looking very, very strong and on point right now.
Look, my favorite part about this matchup is that last night at the end of the show, we're all talking about what we thought of this series. We go back, we're sitting in the lobby, we're talking about this series. We wake up this morning and we're all debating how this series will go. Like there's so much around this series that is very compelling that it's exciting for us to come in to see today.
For me, this series sets the tone for us going into next week, right? This is the level of play that we are expecting all of our teams to play out, right? If you want to be able to be a grand champion at the EMSB. So I'm excited to watch this thing. I want to see how it unfolds. And also because Gen.G, when we were talking to them last week, we mentioned Ballistix and how they're always their rival at these tournaments, right, on LAN. Somehow Ballistix always beats them, it feels like. And Gen.G goes, well, Ballistix is the weakest Korean team right now. Just straight up said that. And Ballistix has been going off a little bit lately, Hooligan in particular. So this is just growing into this awesome match.
Well, of course, let's focus here on Gen.G first, and they are home to one of the most storied and arguably the best player in the world, according to a lot of people. It's Rich.
저는 젠지 히어로즈 팀에서 원거리 딜러를 맡고 있는 리치라고 합니다. 어느 팀을 가든 항상 상위권을 유지하고 있고 대회 우승 경력도 많기 때문에 그게 제 장점이라 생각해요.
제가 몇몇 안 되는 그런 잘한다는 느낌, 얘는 좀 특별하다라는 느낌을 가진 몇 명 안 되는 선수 중에 한 명인 것 같아요.
저 개인적으로도 그렇고 한국 내에서는 가장 히어로즈를 잘하는 선수라고 생각해요.
딱히 두려워한다는 것까지는 모르겠는데 많은 선수들이 저를 이기고 싶어 하긴 하더라고요.
Rich is going to be able to put this game on a timer. That's going to be another kill there for Rich.
7-0 kills, completely dominating. Gen.G is still on the warpath. 2-0 over Mindfreak.
아직까지 그렇게 접은 적은 없기 때문에 많이들 도전하셨으면 좋겠어요.
I can't think of any music more befitting of
that
nice. perfect moment. And that is Rich, of course. Gentlemen, what can you say about Gen.G or even Rich?
Rich kill you.
Yeah, Rich will kill you. He'll speak English and he'll even tell you in English that he's going to win, right? This guy is KDA. Ever since he switched to that range role, it's just insane, right? He's absolutely dominating that role, and it highlights it in that little clip that we saw before, just kill after kill after kill, and he's playing these dive-heavy assassins, getting in your backline, playing into compositions where you're thinking, this should be a counter, and he'll say, no, I'm going to flip that completely on its head.
Yeah, Rich has been always a fantastic player for, gosh, years on end. I remember when he took a little bit of a break, everyone was a little bit upset, heartbroken.
Yeah,
and then he came back and everyone was like, all right, our hearts are mended now. That's the power he has. He's a surgeon outside of the game.
Let's talk about the impact it's had. As you said, statistically, this team has changed. They flipped the script. They went into the Eastern Clash. They were actually second in KDA in kills per game to Tempest, believe it or not. And then all of a sudden, they made the role change. They made the switch. All of a sudden, they averaged a 13.5 KDA since then in league play. That is a number I've never seen before. I've been keeping track of stats for over 2 years now. That is a number I've never, ever seen. And to do it over that period of time. Maybe before the stats of that spring global run. But then you look at Rich averaging over 4 kills a game. To put that into context, the 5th highest kills per game in that time span, like 3.1. Right, that is how far distant it is between everybody else. There's nobody that's even close to this team statistically, and Rich in particular. It's impossible to put it into context how dominant they've been. It's amazing.
And our second Korean team here coming into our next match, it will be Ballistix. But let's focus on someone who's very close to my heart when it comes to StarCraft. It's SC.
SC 선수는 좋은 선수인 것 같아요. 딜을 안정적이게 잘 넣고 생존도 잘하고 그런 면에서 뛰어난 것 같아요.
저희 팀은 그냥 주장이자 약간 기둥이 되는 선수. 네. 전략적인 머리를 잘 쓰고
그냥 장난기도 조금 있고 성격도 엄청 착해서 엄청 편한 선수인 것 같아요.
네, 저는 발리스틱스에서 메인 딜러를 맡고 있는 SC입니다. 지고 시작하는데 결국 결승이나 우승을 하는 횟수가 되게 많아요. 그게 그럴 때 좀 가장 기쁘게 하는 것 같아요.
A strategist, a tactician, and a master of mechanics. SC for me is one of the hallmarks that is really rang true with Ballistix. And you know, some people might not know this, but for a long time back when he was playing StarCraft, his pro gaming career was actually in jeopardy a little bit due to kind of, I think he had some surgery a little for a while and things, and it really stopped him and stunted his progression through as a pro gamer. But here in Heroes of the Storm, he has been able to have that resurgence and really stamp his name on Heroes of the Storm history.
I think if we speak about resurgence as a whole for this unit, you know, they start off against Tempo Storm and go quite shaky. They go 0-2, and then people are thinking, oh, hang on a minute, Korea actually coming into this quite weak, right? They have 2 days of recovery. They go up against the one as well as Mind Freak, and it's a chance for them to reset that mental balance, right? Now they're going to come into arguably the hardest opponent in this tournament to date. And I mean, we talk about energy from these Korean teams, especially from Hooligan. And in the past, we've seen him just absolutely pop off single-handedly, scream and shout and make things happen.
Yeah.
He was doing that yesterday, and he wanted something to happen. So I feel like you've awoken the beast.
Yes.
And they're going to come into this one thinking, this is land, this is where we shine.
It seemed so much better yesterday than it did the other couple of days.
I think what they were missing, the element that really makes Ballistix who they are, is they have 3 players that can turn it into overdrive, right? All 5 of them are phenomenal players, but there's 3 of them that I look at to take over the game. That's Jongha, SC, and then Hooligan. If one of them are able to pop off in a match, typically they're able to get that victory. And that was kind of missing on day 1, day 2 a little bit, but they have seemed to found their stride here, and that's why, again, this series in particular is starting to shape up to be an exciting one.
It is. We highlighted the 2 best players, and believe it or not, you guys know I love my stats, right? In Korea, SC is #1 in KD. So Rich, step up to this. I mean, the matchup of Rich versus SC, I mean, these are 2 of the best range players that we have in the world that are facing off in this. And obviously, we talked about Hooligan, a lot of that stuff. It's a matter of the full team functioning, but you can look, both of those players love to be aggressive and love to put the team on their back.
Let's find out where we're going to fight, go fisticuffs. Let's find out where it's going to be. We need to find out the bans, of course, first, and then from there on, we'll figure things out. It's going to be Brex's Holdout gone, Tomb of the Spider Queen gone, and we are going to
Volskaya.
Very interesting, this one here.
The most popular battleground, by the way.
It's picked by Gen.G
in this tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
11 games, I think, coming into today. And the thing about this is we found that Gen.G loves to just, look, they run the Sergeant Hammer against the Garrosh, and if you don't get that, then they're going to go the Tracer. And I think a lot of this, as we saw in the previous series, it's like, all right, we got the Tassadar, let the other team have the Tracer, see how things match up. It's going to be very interesting with the draft here.
Let's get into it then. Game #1, this is a big one. Gen.G goes up against Ballistix to start things off.
I think what interests me the most about this one, even just sticking on the lines of the map bans, is, you know, Curse Hollow is typically being banned away by Gen.G, looking to try and sort of exploit what Ballistix are strong at in that macro sense, but then Ballistix have always banned away Volskaya. So what we've seen that adaptation, almost like a meta has unfolded over these past 5 days with a Gonna switch things around.
Wow.
That is an extremely early Zeratul pick on the side of Ballistix, already changing the priority here.
What is this draft?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are these teams?
I mean,
Okay,
it's exciting.
No TAS, no Tracer. We get an early Zeratul, which, again, Zeratul, this has been his most played Battleground with lots of success up to this point. So no surprise, maybe not first pick, but the Johanna on the other side with a Gen.G is very surprising to me.
For me, she's been the true surprise of the tournament in terms of her elevation and acceleration up towards top of drafts, right?
Especially when we've seen her be punished so much as well. If you have a Johanna that barely oversteps 1 to 2 pixels, your team will be jumped on immediately on that back line, especially with the Zeratul being on the opposing side. So Gen.G really believing in Johanna. I mean, there is obviously the obvious thing to talk about when it comes to her on this Battlegrounds. She is a hero that will hold a location, and you need to hold a location on this Battleground when it comes to the control point. So I'm excited to see how this pans out for Gen.G.
For me, like Johanna, it's her win rate in league play was terrible, somewhere around 37%, absolutely abysmal win rate. But then when we've gotten here, as we see the Ariel Vala, we heard about, she's sitting around 59%. It's a little bit smaller sample size, but teams are drafting better around Johanna. And that was always the problem, is that there wasn't enough setup, there wasn't enough initiation, I think, in other forms or fashion. But the fact that we now have our Ariel Vala, something we had heard about but have not seen yet in abundance from the Korean region, is going to make its way here. And you've got that burst, you've got that sustain, all right here for Ballistix.
I was going to say, I mean, we've seen, especially from the side of Gen.G, they've kind of resurrected this Oriole Vala composition, this hyper carry style, and they've rehashed it, bringing it into this one. But if you look at the Oriole stats leading into day number 5, she's 1 and 5, right? People are saying, oh, Oriole's back, she's so strong, she can do this, she can do that. But her stats don't justify just her entire strength in that regard. If there is anybody in the world that I look to try and make this work, it's SCSC on that Vala. This guy shows me why I love playing this hero. So I am very looking forward to what they can actually bring out here. Gen.G go for the Tyrael ban, which is a very, very standard ban in Korea. I wonder if we see a Blaze ban as a response, however, to try and shut down this this burst potential that both teams will be looking for.
Do you think the Zeratul first pick coming in is for them to try and almost effectively protect the Valor? Because down the line, perhaps in Korea, maybe that is something that they use to try and punish that as an outcome later down the line in the draft? Or...
I mean, it's one element to it. Another element as well is that Vala is a hero that can really beat on a front line, but eventually that front line can kind of choose when they want to disengage. When you have a Zeratul who can actually chase down that target and clean it up, you have that element. So it looks like, yeah, it kind of covers both. 1, you can protect the Vala, and 2, you can aid the Vala and finally getting those kills.
I liked what Skimmy brought up about the Blaze. That's one thing that Johanna, as great as she is at holding, she doesn't always have the best initiation. We actually saw a Caterpillar make good use out of that level 7 talent and get that Dream lockdown. You know, Hanzo's still available here. Tassadar is going to be the pickup, but we do get that TAS Tracer. Crystal Aegis can protect. Now, is this going to be some type of double support? I know that sounds a little bit wild considering we only have the Zeratul, but I'm just trying to figure out where Ballistix stays in this. Tracer has traditionally done very well against this style of composition.
The front line has to be thicker. What do they go for?
I think the elephant in the room for me also is the fact that Maiev has just completely slipped through this draft, right? We've seen a massive priority on not only picks, but bans, not first ban, not first picked. They're just completely letting it through, and it's really catering to the idea of Korea, right? You've got the double threats from either side, the Vala composition for Ballistix, the Tracer composition for Gen.G, looking to try and really showcase that 1v1 matchup between Rich and SCSC when it comes to that ranged damage-dealing mechanical sense.
Coming back to J-House point of how do you keep this Vala alive, I think immediately you think about either Thrall with Earthquake, you think about Blaze with the Bunker. If you do go down the double support route, is Brightwing too weird? I know it sounds really awkward, but Polymorph into Emerald Wind handle 2?
Zarya!
Zarya's
That's
the answer.
The one.
Okay, there it is. So Zarya, and then Muradin pops up.
That was that one. Trick and I were sitting there the other day. We're like, where in the world does this come in? Now we know this is the experiment that we've been waiting to see. When we heard about the Vala Ariel, there were whispers of other heroes that kind of pair along. It wasn't necessarily a pairing. It was like, what are some weird heroes we might see? And they said these. I did not know we would get them in combination, but now that I see it, makes a lot more sense.
I mean, this when I think about a year and a half ago-ish, and Vala Oriel was actually a thing. If Tassadar was removed, you would either go Zarya or even Medivh, old Medivh, to try and get a few shields in. So it's a pretty old tactic.
Yeah, it's a really good point there. I mean, Oriel, one of the things about her is that she pops out her burst heal and then it's, okay, we have 2 to 3 seconds that we can punish here if we're going to go in for a fight. Zarya says, no, I have a shield for that target that you try to jump onto. And they really kind of counteract each other in their weaknesses. So Very strong draft here for Ballistix. I'm wondering what Gen.G's going to finish up their pick here.
The same way that you look for Medivh shields, you've got to look for Zarya shields.
Yeah.
The minute that thing goes down, and if you're rich on that Tracer, that's your opportunity. I think that's going to be hard, as we do see Kerosene come out as the support. This is a very all-in-your-face composition, but with Zarya, she needs damage to come in to absorb energy.
Yeah.
The problem is, against a Gen.G, against a Tracer, the only predictable burst damage that you will get is that pulse bomb. And if you see that shield go off and you're an auto attack style hero or throwing out your shurikens the same way that Gen.G does, you will refrain from doing that and deny Zarya that energy to be as effective as she can be.
Don't forget about turrets though, item control. When turrets come out of the control
Just
point,
walk into
Zarya
them.
can punish that.
That's
you walk
true.
into it and you grab those energy shots.
Time for predictions, Skimmy. Starting with you.
Sorry. This is really, really tough, to be quite honest. I'm looking at the composition of Ballistix, and this is something that they've run before with the Zarya, looking to try and empower the Valor. Just based on the Oriole stats alone, if any team can beat Gen.G, I think it's Ballistix. And based on what I saw with Hooligan yesterday, I'm just going to go with my heart, and I want to see an upset. I'm going Ballistix.
I was actually going to go with Ballistix until the Kerosene came in. It felt like the answer was picked for Ballistix, but looking at Gen.G and they just instantly lock in that Kerosene, they feel like they know how to punish this composition and delete a target. So I'm going to go with them, Gen.G.
I share a lot of the same sentiments as Trixo. I don't think there's enough predictable damage to empower the Zarya to be as powerful as she could potentially be, so I'm going with Gen.G.
Unless Gen.G has a terrible draft or their win streak is broken, I'm not betting against them until then, so Gen.G for me as well. So let's see what Twitch chat thinks here as we go on forwards. 66%, 34%.
There's belief.
There is some belief.
There's some belief out there.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially since they stepped up in the past day or two, because at the beginning, it didn't look great. So let's head over to the commentary team as well for our Korea versus Korea. It's like you're back at home, boys, kind of.
Welcome to Code A, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this is going to be Code S level. This is going to be HGC Korea level. This is going to be top tier actions coming at you guys. And I'm hoping the series ends up being living up to expectations here, because it is a very important one, especially because Ballistix could force that tiebreaker if they take the 2-0.
All right, well, we're going to sit back and enjoy. You two.
I personally am really hyped because we have Tracer on one hand, we have Vala on the other, so a lot of hyper carry potential currently. And yeah, good map for it as well. Volskaya kicking us off in game number 1.
Well, we're going to go ahead and start with introducing Generation G here in blue. Undefeated in this tournament. Tist on Johanna, Rich on his Gen.G, Kyocha on Tasta, Reset bringing in the Tracer, and Karazim being played by... that's actually not correct, because Rich is on the Tracer, and Gen.G will be played by Rich. Did I read that wrong? Okay, no, okay, my bad.
Oh, yeah, good. Spray game also on point on the side of Gen.G, but looking over to the right side, it is Ballistix. Jongha on Zeratul, we have Magi on Oriel, SC on Vala, SDE on Zarya, and Hooligan on Muradin. Going straight into the quest talent, very typical for Korean teams.
The thing about the Reset and Rich swap I was talking about earlier is just unusual to see both of these heroes together in a composition in Korea. We saw it at the beginning when we saw Gen.G first released. We saw a few dive comps like this, but it's no longer very common. So both these players kind of having overlapping roles here. But Rich will be bringing up the Tracer. You see the heavy dive here onto SC already. But he's got that Zarya to back him up. He's going to get out just fine.
And SDE with a lot of energy here in the early game, going into Demolition's Expert on level 1. So no feel the heat or the attack combos for sieging up that we see here. And we have now at the same time against Gen.G starting to play a little bit aggressive, already trying to go in, but Hooligan is there with a Stormbolt.
The other cool thing about this Zarya composition for Ballistix is they have this insane wave clear that they can use to roam around. Zeratul can threaten when the counters come through, but so far Gen.G has been really preventing them from actually getting serious structural damage done like you would want to look for in the early game with the Zarya. It's been an old comfort pick for Ballistix from back when, at the end of 2016, Zarya was released into Heroes of the Storm, and you know, it's cool to see them bring this out in such an important series like this. It feels like Zarya always pops up in high-level matches and international events, like towards the end of BlizzCons, for example. We see her come back in. We saw that last year at the finals, so excited to see this with the auto-attack build. We saw Zarya played earlier yesterday, in fact, with the Q build by, I believe it was Mind Freaks, didn't find the same amount of success as this Zarya, I think, is going to find on Ballistix.
Savage. Well, as the game starts, from a macro perspective, of course, when we're talking about full Skya Foundry, it's always up to the item counts. You're trying to secure at least your own turret, and then it's the battle over the biotic emitter, about the healing pulse, and that's what we're seeing here. Gen.G and Ballistix both went straight for the turret, and now we have that little skirmish here up at the top. Hooligan needs to be careful, and he's immediately dove upon. Gets taken out by Tracer here. The bomb was hitting Zarya, but the splash damage was still enough to get the first kill here for Gen.G.
Nice try, STE, for the body block, but still just a little bit too close for comfort there to actually prevent the death. Now we're going to see Jungha rotate down here. Gen.G gets that first blood. They're going to go ahead and take the top left camp here, the siege camp, to try to keep that lane pushing. They will easily be able to clear the siege camp of Ballistix that's already up there. So clear that out quickly, dominate that lane during that small death timer there.
With the build that is currently being played, or the setup that Ballistix is trying to run here, with Vala being the hyper carry for the team next to Zeratul, of course, also going to try and burn down the squishies. We have Zarya now going immediately into Give Me 20. Super important here to just increase the shield amount and try to reduce the cooldown if you complete the quest talent. So with that idea, it's all on Vala later on, because SC has to be one of the main targets for Gen.G when they're trying to get the kills.
Yeah, and you have to have that protection, absolutely. Otherwise, your entire composition falls apart. Sure, Zarya can do some damage when given the opportunity at high energies. So can Zeratul if he can get into the right position, but you're really reliant on the range damage from Vala with this comp. Gen.G going to go ahead and grab control of this first control point. Unfortunately, not fully captured. Reset going in on the SC. He's caught and they're stunned. And there was no shielding coming through, the multiple stuns coming through on top of the army. And Magi goes down now as well. It's going to be the double. Rich just barely recalls out. They do not capitalize on that moment. Well, the Q gets him.
The nade to the face here as SDE on Zarya just gets the counter kill. At least succeeds in taking down one. Now we have a couple of adjustments in the build that we also have to highlight here, especially with heroes that we're not quite seeing that often. Oriel popped up a couple of times at the Mid-Season Brawl here, but this is of course a pretty important match. We're on level 4 now. We're seeing repeated offense. So it's trying to spec a little bit more into the damage and trying to get the burst out. So if coordinated properly with maybe a pre-stun on Muradin's side, there's definitely quite a bit of burst that can be pushed out against the Tracer, just to name one example. And that's something that they will have to try and do now, as Ballistix is starting to reclaim the objective.
They will reclaim this, but I think Gen.G's well set up to actually take it back.
Yeah.
Very important they could try to fight for that control meter here, though, up to 13% already. Careful approach is what Gen.G is going to need. They're looking for the burst blow-ups here onto the Vala, but SC, one of the best Valas in the world here, is positioned well. Here comes the turret down here to start the fight, and they're going to dive in. SC's the target, gets low, but gets back, and they turn it around.
And they're nearly the kill against SC, but there is the heal and the shield. But on the other hand, we have Hooligan just pushed back in, and that's the kill against Muradin. So it's a 1-for-1 trade as we're seeing Ballistix trying to go in again. Rich goes down as Jungha goes in for the kill, takes it, and forces Gen.G back.
Looks like Ballistix is going to get control of this tree glab. There's no way that Gen.G could retake it right now. They're looking for an opportunity, but they're being over-aggressive. Tisk gets taken out by the Q there. That Hungering Arrow is just going to follow him down.
And you know, the initial kill that we saw against Tracer was actually really well coordinated. And the level 4 talent on Oriel that we've been talking about came into play here too. A great Taman strike into the wall after the Stormbolt hit, and that was all that they needed to take Rich down. And once they got the initial kill, that's really when Ballistix could start to snowball it a bit.
Yeah, I feel like Gen.G also just, with this composition, the Zarya pick is the perfect answer. You have just that extra shield, just that extra reliability to save SC in these fights. And because Gen.G has to go so deep in order to get those potential picks, when they fail to get them, Ballistix is doing so much damage with Zarya having high energy. Bala survives, comes back, does the extra damage. And Zeratul just cleans up anybody who survives. So it's a very defensive comp, and if Gen.G fails the attempted pick, then they get wrecked in the counterattack.
Exactly, and it's the same as, of course, to an extent also true for Ballistix, who need to try and keep SC on his Vala alive. If they can pull it off, then they're in really good standing in these fights, and that's where both of these teams collide. Both of them with a lot of support for their hyper carries. And the one thing that really stands out too is just Zeratul. Jungha on the Zeratul, always looking to confirm a kill after the hero has been poked down. And we actually see now also Strafe taken on the side of Vala.
And also we're seeing a hidden heroic here for the side of Reset on the Gen.G. We'll see if he ends up taking X-Strike for just extra mobility to go in and finish Vala off, because that's kind of been a theme in this early game, as Vala surviving with 15% health. If you've got the X-Strike, you can back out, then come back in with the X-Strike to re-engage to get that final kill after the shield wears off. So something that I like that they lock in here.
Look how dead even the game is. Both of the teams just about to hit level 11, 4 kills each. So really well done by Gen.G to stay even in experience, even though they lost the Protector here. But this is exactly the game that we were hoping for. This is looking amazing.
Oh yeah, it's very, very close. Protector didn't get that much done because the fight was so close. And we do see 7-sided strike here for that extra burst damage. This is going to be a fiery game. I mean, we're looking basically two Rams crashing their heads into each other, essentially, with Gen.G coming in, trying to get that pick, and then Ballistix just trying to survive and then going for the counterattack. And it's just a tug-of-war game here at this point.
And let's talk about that 7-sided for a second. Hooligan already has a lot of trouble at the front line sustaining himself, since Zarya is keeping a lot of the shields ready for Vala. And that has been a bit of an issue for Muradin. Now with the 7-sided coming into play too, there's a lot more burst down potential against him in particular. So now there's a lot of pressure on Zarya to just always have that shield ready to either help Vala if there's a dive against her, or make sure that you keep your tank alive if the focus of Gen.G all of a sudden shifts to the front line.
Yeah, and there's easy ways to do that when the shift is being made when SC backs off. You don't have that much escapability if you've used your Dwarf Toss, for example, earlier on. And there's isolation potential there with the Condemn, with the Blessed Shield, like you were mentioning. So very much, we see a lot of this in high-level Korea versus Korea matches, where there's a lot of passivity during these dull moments when there's nothing on the map. Look at the map. All of it's taken. It's a dead split, pretty much here. There's no objective, so you're just roaming around hoping for mistakes of your opponent, but you're not going to risk a big engage.
There's a lot of play with vision happening actually right now, where Muradin, for example, was holding the brush here, trying to scout out movements on the side of Gen.G and hoping, of course, for someone to maybe overstep to an extent so that they can follow up with a play. But now we're talking about the top lane. And to me, one of the interesting parts is actually that with the Protector that we saw from Ballistix, they failed to move to the top and take down the Fountain. Especially within the Western scene, that's normally one of the standard rotations that you try to execute to take the Fountain down to set up for the next objective phase. But with Gen.G's defense, Ballistix wasn't quite able to pull that off.
Yeah, and I think this, again, just shows the lack of experience that these Korean teams have on this map. They got a lot in this tournament, but just in general, the Western teams know it much better. Okay, Rich just trying to trade here, but he's trading health for Ariel Hope. So it's not end up being a pretty good trade for him. Does back off, does get that healing well you were talking about. And they're trying to look for an opportunity to grab SC here. Zeratul headed back in. Jung is headed right up to this top lane right now. So this is going to be that 5v5 fight. Halfway controlled by Ballistix at the moment. Stormbolt does not connect. SC just being so patient. Not even auto-attacking. Just being safe, knowing that this is the biggest, most dangerous moment for him right now.
Tist once again holding the healing pulse here, and that gives his team a bit of an edge during this battle. The nullification that we have from Tassadar, of course, another big talent here in this instance, as both of the teams are now aiming for position on the objective. At this point, Gen.G is starting to take a small lead here.
Hey, SDE's got a lot of energy, so he's actually doing a ton of damage here, too. It almost looked like SC was baiting there for a second. Tist is coming in here. He's going to drop the Blessed Shield. He's solo, but he's not afraid. He's going forward here. Healing Pulse drop down as well. SD, full energy, dropping shields here. Rich has to back off. Here comes Reset in, though. He got one of them.
And they're going for Zarya straight away. Here comes the Void Prism, but it's a bit too late as Rich is already going for the next kill. But he doesn't get it. Tracer goes down a bit too far in. The 7-sided comes through as Hooligan is dropping hit points. And Reset somehow able to get away, as we are seeing Jongha and Zeratul attempting to confirm a second kill.
And they commit to the fight. They get the Tree Glab Protector, so we're 1-on-1 in terms of objectives here now. As Gen.G moves into this top lane, they'll be easily able to take this wall out, but this is really an unstoppable force against an immovable object here is what we're watching. Such good defensive play out of Ballistix, and they barely, with the help of Ariel there, survived against that Tracer damage, and Rich ends up dying to that cannon tower.
There's a really good chance that we're going to see that replay later on from the analysis desk again, because there were a lot of things happening there. Even Ariel trying to just throw the ult out. There were a couple of things when Rich finally decided to trigger, go in and try and get the kill. And of course with Vala dying first, Ballistix was actually on the back foot for a long time and then was still able to get that kill since Rich went a little bit too deep.
And that's the cool thing about Zarya. She could do so much damage defensively as well. And when you have a Zeratul too, even if they back off and try to re-engage, they're not really able to freely back away because you have so much mobility with the Zeratul pick. You could stick to somebody with the Vorpal as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
this does so much more damage than what Ballistix was able to do. And they're looking to fight with it too. Magi's the target.
They have the 16, and once they have 16, they go in. Auriel with the attempt to save herself, but it doesn't work. But Rich is dying again. Zarya just pulling in the numbers at this point. Gen.G on the way back, take down the fort. They hold on to that level 16 talent. And once they got it, that triggered the entire attack here, the dive behind the fort in the first place. But now they're trying to invade the turret. Zhonghai slow, needs to be careful. Seven-sided coming through as Reset is trying to get the kill.
SDE is solo, and Sake's going to take him out there with the help of Reset in the end, but it is going to be a trade once more. But all of these trades on the side of Gen.G are better. They're getting trades when they're also getting objectives. They had the 16 talent tier advantage in this fight, but they're taking these trades where they are grabbing an objective with the trade. They grabbed the Tree God Protector last time. This time they grabbed the camp. They're holding an item advantage right now as well, and Ballistix is going to try to come for an invade here without the Zarya. A risky proposition here because they need that protection for SC.
Tist at the side is waiting for the perfect moment here for the initiation. He doesn't have his ult though, but he moves in with a Condemn. Here comes the immediate Void Prison, and the fight still rages on as we have another Stormball hitting home hard against Reset here, as Hooligan is still trying to claim the point, but Auriel is in trouble. Magi healing himself. Reset coming in. It goes down. The counter kill against Auriel with Rich dodging the storm mode like a god, dropping the emitter here, keeping everyone alive as we have still a trade.
And the turret. And here comes Zarya in with a huge Condemn. Ballistix, I think, overextending here. Hooligan's got the shield. Does not actually end up getting the kill, but he survives a bit longer. Finally taken out here. 7-side strike. So much for Zarya's here for the fight, but a bit too late. And everyone's so low.
What a slaughter. 11 kills against 8, and they barely move away. SDE keeping himself and Zhonghai alive, but it's still a trade in favor of Gen.G. A back and forth brawl where both teams just... I mean, that's bloodlust right there.
This is what the top of Korea looks like if you've never seen it before. And just in these two compositions as well, how they function against each other makes every fight so insanely close. This is definitely a high-level showcasing of mechanical skill here. Even though both of these drafts are not perfectly meta per se, how they ended up clashing in the draft and what we end up seeing with these defensive moves from Ballistix and Gen.G trying to calculate how they can get in and get these kills. It's so fantastic to watch. We saw the Aegis perfectly timed there in that last fight. The Void from Zhonghai was so good because it allowed them to survive until Zarya could get there because they didn't have that protection. And he's playing a fantastic Zeratul in this first game.
And it's also beautiful how Gen.G in particular collapses onto the backline, especially against Magi. We see Reset the entire time aiming for the kill together with Rich when both of them move into the backline. Tist looking for the engage a bit earlier already, but didn't have his blessed shield ready as he was trying to start the initiation here. So at this point, Gen.G still holding a significant advantage in experience. They're looking at level 19. They're waiting for 20 as Ballistix is trailing behind nearly 2 levels. And
Tist already grabbed the...
They have to force a fight now.
Yeah, and Tist already has this control point, so Ballistix needs to try to find that opportunity, like you say, while he's gone. But look at the positioning here for Gen.G. And Ballistix comp is not a dive comp. They can't go into turret like this or they could get punished. They have poke, but they do not have dive, so it's tough to force that fight. Here's the heal coming in. SC's fine. Remember, they're just trying to force this 4v5, or sorry, 4v4.
Yeah, they're trying at this point to just simply push their own wave into the range of the fort so that they finally can take some structures. It's one of the main reasons why Gen.G is ahead. They have a slight lead in the kill count, but the main bunch of experience that they have as an advantage stems from the structures that they eliminated. So Ballistix' idea in the mid lane was to push the lane out, push into the fort and take it down so that they come a bit closer to level 19. But as it stands, Gen.G picks up another Protector, are about to hit level 20.
Yeah, this could be the game-winning one here.
Yeah, with the Storm Talents now, there's definitely a chance for
Exactly. And Ballistix did everything they could have done with this composition given their deficit. They tried to take that fight. They knew they couldn't take it. because of the waves taking so long to get there, the positioning of Gen.G. They're going to have a heroic stand here. Vala is going to have to do insane amounts of damage to this protector to push it off. The keep goes down pretty much no matter what here, but they need to make sure they don't lose anybody, or this is game one going to Gen.G.
A lot of this is, in my opinion, up to Jongha. Does he find the Void Prison? Does he find the engage that he needs as Gen.G is pushing in, trying to take the keep and potentially end if they can get the kill. They're looking for that kill, but STE is keeping everyone alive. The keep is going down. Sak is taking a lot of damage, but Gen.G is now looking for the finish.
A Twilight Archon here making it so much easier to just keep pushing through now that they have 20. He is the target here. Void comes down defensively, but they want more. True God Protector moving in here as well onto STE. There's a great Stormbolt though, forcing the 7-sided strikeout. Don't know if this is going to be the core call they were looking for, but there's the pick.
Meriton is down, and now all of a sudden they're trying to make it a double kill. The core is already on the attack as the Protector is starting to move in. SC is low. Magi with the attempt on the heals here. The Protector about to fall, but so does the core.
And the Twilight Archon just continues to do massive amounts of damage here. Here's the dive. There's the kill onto SDE. SC's going to be the next to fall. Magi's going down. Looks like this is game over as Ballistix gets full wiped here. A very, very tough early game from Gen.G, but they were able to make the dive composition work against the Zarya there. They controlled the objectives, and from then on, there was just no way from behind that the Zarya composition could dive in and take aggressive engagements. Their only win condition was to win fights defensively, and that was all fine and good in the early game, but later on, it just did not work out.
Towards the end, the Void Prison dropped and only catching Tracer, and you could see how Hooligan was trying to look for that Stormbolt, but that didn't work out. Tracer zipping away. Instead, Karazim, who was going in for the 7-sided, eats the Stormbolt, immediately uses ult once the stun's over, and that just didn't allow enough time to burst him down. And then the kills started coming in, Reset in particular, just moving into that backline, getting the kills, the resets, and at that point, just Ballistix fell apart.
It was an amazing first game. We got one more left, but before we go into that second draft, we are going to let the panel break down that very first exciting game.
That's right, guys. What a treat has Gen.G able to take that first game, and so many small little nuances. Even something as simple as Rich dodging a Stormbolt. It might not have looked super flashy to some people, but at the back, it's picture perfect, realistically speaking. And I've got to give a shout out to the swapping of people in Triglav Protector to send them down to the bottom. Love it. Really cool stuff. What a game to watch, Trick.
Yeah, that it was. The bloodbath, right? So many trades back and forth. Eventually, Gen.G was able to grab just enough of a lead there to eventually get to the late game and start to get that 1 to 2 level lead over their opponents. But I love what Ballistix brought in there when it came to that composition, but you can just tell why Gen.G has been so strong for so long, the little things they do. Even Rich with his couple of deaths, those were things that were forced heavily by Ballistix, and it still wasn't enough.
I think Wolf summed it up pretty well during the game itself. You know, they're always making these trades. The game was going to be very back and forth, very, very close in that regard. But every single time that trade would come across, Ballistix were falling behind further and further in items and objectives, in actual just map control. And I feel once these small, minor things start to creep up, then the game ends up in a situation like where it was.
The other thing he said was talking about the mechanical skill, and it is on display literally from every player. Yeah. I've got a replay here, and I don't think there's enough time to even break this down.
Oh, I love
the
this
little
one.
things. Let's just pause here because, you know, a lot of this started and was initiated by Johanna forcing out the Blessed Shield here in a second as that's going to go, and then it also have the Healing Pulse. There's so much going on. We're going to focus on this side and this side. There's things all over the place, but first we're going to turn our attention here as we roll it forward. Test initiating here, and this is Vala on the front. In the key moments, look for Sake. He's waiting to get that jump, and Reset is trying to go, seeing if he can get the X strike on. And that's when things really start to open up. And SC, again, the primary target is right here, trying to be kept alive. He's there, but you're going to see the Swift Strike come in and Reset doing what he does. Now we're going to run it back. I want to run this back more towards the beginning because that's actually when SC fell. But there was two fronts of the fight here, and a lot of it was the Crystal Aegis. We'll pause right here. Rich gets the Pulse Bomb onto Jongha. SDE, he's trying to do whatever he can to keep people alive. You can see the shield is there, so now that's going to force Magi to get the Crystal Aegis. So we'll go through, run it forward, and that's going to save Jongha. And Rich, he's just all over people on the back line, but you can see that SDE, he is loaded up on energy, so it's making it hard. Rich moves out, Kyocha and Rich on the front line, and this is where Rich starts to do work. And again, it's two fronts. You can make plays all over this, and this is a really fun thing because Jongha comes out, he's doing the damage, and SDE, and it seems like, hey, this is going to be the moment where we see Gen.G get the reset, because there's the first one, taking it back to the first part. The Swift Strike will come through. through. SDE is going to be there, and you can see the shield's going to come in. Rich does confirm the kill. Now we'll pause it right here because Jong-Ha, he's running for safety. He's like, guys, like, I don't know if I can take much more. We got to get out of here. And so you see both on retreat. Rich is looking really healthy. He's like, boy, he's licking his chops. He's like, it's time to get double kill after double kill. But you're going to see here in a second as we run it forward. We can run it forward just a little bit slowly. The heal is going to come in at the very last moment. And Rich is like, man, I think I overextended. I'm committing. I'm going to trade here. Does not get the trade. And boom, down goes Rich. And that was a back and forth of epic proportions. I mean, you could look at every side of that replay and just see so much action happening. Every right choice was made, it seems like every player, but it's got to break at some point.
And I think one of the most important things to take away from a fight like that is it's not your usual game at home where you're like, you're 5 guys playing as friends, you're like, we're going to target this one hero. No, that like these guys have mastered this game to a T. They know that when they apply pressure on one side, the split damage, knowing the limitations and capabilities of like a Tracer on the other side, is going to cause so many issues for a team like that is a world champion like Ballistix.
Yeah, I mean, it draws parallels, if I was to go a bit obscure, to World of Warcraft and its arena element, right? Where you're looking to try and bait out as many cooldowns as possible, and within that window go, bam, this is our chance to find that kill. You saw during that replay there, you know, Aegis is out. It's time to switch target, and you're looking to try and bait out as many resources as possible, switch your attention, keep them guessing, and during those quick, fast, in-your-face moments, there's so much decision-making to make, and as a shot call, and even just as a player, there's too much that goes on. But Battlefield of Eternity, this is the map for Korea.
Yes, it is.
I do want to go back. Claris actually brings up one of the most important points that you'll know if you ever watch Gen.G. They are the single best team at collapsing and instantly deleting a hero. The problem with that composition is that you had Zarya, you had the VP, you had Crystal Aegis. That is impossible. So I'm glad you brought that up because they had to have a two-prong approach there.
All right, let's get into it then. Game number 2, Gen.G goes up against Ballistix. Currently, Gen.G leading 1-0.
I think it's actually really, really interesting noticing in